Hey everyone, welcome to the stream, community stream number 160, Halloween edition. As always, I'm checking that every single one of you can hear me well, and then we'll be pretty much starting the stream. But yeah, any one of you that is in the chat, I see that we have Yosef here. Just let me know that you can hear me well, that everything is working fine, and then we'll get going. We have quite a few things to discuss today and quite a few surprises to mention as well. Okay, Yosef, you're telling me that you can hear me well, which I guess means we will be ready to start. First and foremost, some of you might have noticed that I changed the names of the accounts for the occasion, the one that you are fighting in the easy mode and in the hardcore mode. I only realized afterwards that this one could easily be pronounced Doorkenstein, which is not necessarily what I was going for. I was more going for door Einstein like cellar door. That was the idea. But yeah, I when once I realized that, I was like, okay, let's keep it this way. It's funny enough this way. Um, okay, so the Fight Night has a few little surprises today. The first one is that you are getting boosted rewards, so a bit more gems than usual for the wins, the draws, and even the losses. But also, for those of you that decided to make their armies a bit spooky looking, you will enter a contest to get some Halloween related skins. The way it's gonna work is that once we pick the winners, I will contact those players or ask them to contact us on Discord, and they will be able to pick the skin that they want as long as it's a spooky one, right? Ideally, one of the ones that are coming in the special offers that are coming for Halloween. But even if you wanted another one, as long as it's even remotely spooky, that will do the trick. How many winners there will be? Well, it depends how many of you did play that game. If there's only a few, then that will be only potentially one winner, two winners, three winners. And if there are many of you, there might be more. We'll see. The other part as well is that if you are sharing your player tag or your player name in the chat as we're going along with the stream, you will also enter a draw to get a, a skin from the Halloween themed skin. So that would be, all the demonic, all the skeletons. What else do we have that is spooky? I'm trying to think about the in-game names for the skins, but yeah, all the demonic, all the skeletons ones will be in there. Quite a few others as well. The Undying as well. So yeah, that's the main thing that is a bit different for today. Initially, I even wanted to uh, come in a costume, but the problem is because it's 1 week early, it looked a bit weird from my perspective to dress up 1 week early. Hey, Matremar, yeah, I mean, that works, of course. In your case, that means though that this is the account that will enter for the contest. So since I know that you have different accounts that might be in the stream, Matremar, just think about the one that you would like to get a skin for, and that will be what works. Hey, Narcissus, I keep on forgetting that this is your nickname on YouTube. So that's something I need to get stuck in my brain that Yosef is Narcissus because every single time when I realize that it's you, I'm like, oh yeah. So yeah, I have a bit of an epiphany every single time. So okay, cool. Thank you for the clarification, Matrima. So we are gonna start. We have only a few players in the easy category. That's why I wanted to wait a few minutes before we start to make sure we have the people in, or at least some of them. Out of the people that you should be aware of, we will have Immortalis. I'm a bit surprised that you didn't go um, for bigger um, the bigger challenge, but why not? We have Zhutky, we have FatalFarn, we have SymB. SymB, if I remember correctly, asked to get that account back just very recently. So that's a player coming back to the game. So welcome back to the game and welcome back um, to the streams. From what I seen there, this is your first time in the stream, so that's cool. We have Anturium, BigBoonie, we have Monte Cristo, we have Baal, we have Kerasul, Eiriel, GGininder, we have Mr.Leatherface, Aurelius, Aniviper.ALT, we have Unscorched, Drakaya, Razan, and Drak the Duck will close the session. We have a few newcomers in here. Eiriel is just there for the second time, and Drag the Duck is an account that comes for the first time in here. So that's also quite cool. Oh no, that's the second time. Sorry, second time, because I see that you already had a loss at one point. So I think this one is the second time. But for SymB, from what I see, this is your first time. So that's very cool. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. Everything is set up there. We should be ready to go. Yes, we are. Let's go. So I changed the armies a little this week. Not so much, but a little. Uh, at least for the easy and so for the easy one, what I did was just trying to make it look a bit spooky. As always with the easy one, it is meant to be one that newcomers would be able to face and at least deal with. Not brand new players, really beginners would have issues because you still have units that are quite high level. And so even if you had a very good strategy against super strong units, like if you have only units level 50 or 40, you will have a hard time no matter what. But for everyone else, obviously, that's a rather easy fight. That's why it's named this way for those that would be watching for the first time, for example. Um, and so, yeah, I just picked on some skins that looked a bit spooky, a battlefield that looked a bit spooky as well. And that's basically it. For the hardcore slash advanced fight, I did what I did for the last couple of times when I changed the unit, is that I check and find someone in the top 10 of the season that has an army that I kind of like. Of course, you will see that I'm not using um, the power stones that would necessarily make the build better, because I'm still learning how to make the best out of the power stones pool. But I try to replicate the best I can this system. But that gives me a good opportunity to talk. Well, we'll do it a bit later, but to talk about something related to this. So the first topic I wanted to cover for today is obviously, first of all, the issues that were faced with the power stones and some units, which led to the delay of this community stream and also the fix that we ran. Again, if you're facing any issues right now with the clone power stones, etc., update your game to the new version. It's available both for iOS and Android, and it's fixing the issue. Just to be clear, it was not an issue just with the clone Power Stone or a few Power Stones. It was actually with a lot of Power Stones. What happened is that if you were using more than one Power Stone on a unit, it would basically untrigger all of the other Power Stones that you had on this unit. What I did not quite understand is if it only happened if you had two times the same power stone, or if it happened even if you had two unrelated power stones. My understanding is that it was happening when you had two times the same power stone, but that might not be the case. And it was then untriggering all of the power stones. This was happening because of the GRB changes, because the global red boss has power stones, and the phase of the power stones made it so that we made it basically so that after a certain amount of arts are taken out, certain power stones kick in, right? The problem is, for a rather weird development reason, this could happen with your units following basically the same mechanism as the power stone, as the GRB. And so, yeah, we found a quick fix for that. Again, we're very, very sorry about the inconvenience. The good thing is that it got solved without spending too much time on this. Obviously, it's not ideal. Um, but yeah, that's the first point I wanted to bring up. The second one is regarding the GRB in general. It seems like this new format is already getting some traction, I guess, because you now have a currency that can be used just for that, but also the different changes that we've done made it a lot more interesting. There's still some room for improvements. We know that the biggest one on our side will be a better display of the rewards you get if the boss is fully defeated. The good news is, because the boss was fully defeated this week, it means that the next time the boss will show up, a lot of you will have a boss that will go to the higher level. Um, and that will mean they will face a boss that is a bit stronger, but get better rewards as well. So yeah, that's also something we're still tweaking a little. At the moment, I think that the values to level up the boss, or the points you can lose in case the boss is not defeated, they're probably too high. But we needed to set them very high at the beginning, just because it's easier to set them too high and lower them and find a good system. That if we were to put them too low, we would have faced the issue where everyone would have leveled up the boss and would have ended up facing a boss that is too strong for them, and be a bit disappointed right from the next event. So that's why we decided to go this way instead. There are few elements we can still improve on the event. That being said, now you have the full skeleton of the different features that we were looking at for this event. What you still miss are some of the achievements that will come related to this, but they will come as part of a bigger achievement pool. So some of them will come in the seasonal achievements, and some of them will come in the full long-term achievements, and will be coming probably with the cosmetic ones, etc. This at the moment is not going to come right away. It's going to take a bit of time, because the next big thing coming for the game is the artifacts rework. That's something we already discussed quite a few times. I'm not going to go through everything that is there. And this time I don't need Matrimar to tell me that this is the last account for this section. I remembered it. But yeah, long story short, um, the next thing will be the artifacts rework, which should give to a lot of you something new to look at in terms of progression. Should slightly level the battlefield again for the players. There should be less of an insane gap anytime someone increases their artifact level, especially at the moment. You know how much of a difference it makes when you have the spare, for example, level 5 instead of 4. That can already be a game breaking change between two players. Now it shouldn't be as strong. And the main benefit is that it will make, again, the Power Stone a bit more interesting, and the choice of unit and the strategy is a bit more relevant, because artifacts will be a bit more on par with the other mechanisms. So that will be the big change coming in coming weeks slash month, probably. Uh, well, I mean, it's definitely planned by the end of the year, but I wouldn't say early November or something like this, because there's quite some balancing coming. So yeah, somewhere this year, this is still coming. A few things that will come as well. I'm going to change the accounts, but um, in the meantime, I can say that we have a few other changes that will still come this year. Some of them are small optimizations that will be appreciated by some players, not necessarily everyone, but things like allowing players to renew the pool for the wardrobes against a certain amount of gems. Like, let's say you want to spend gems or you want to spend Eternite on a wardrobe, but you already have most of what is in there. You will have the option to use some gems to renew the content and have less content that you already have. And that's something we are going to add. I think there's a few other sections, if I remember correctly, that will have the same mechanism where if you're not too happy with the system with the offers that you have, you will be able to renew them. That's pretty much pre-work for the merchant system that we want to have at one point, which will be using this mechanism anyway. So that's also um, why we are going this way. So let me just close the event, grant the rewards to everyone for the easy part, and we'll move to the other one right away. This one is quite cool. As a reminder, you can win up to 500 gems with this one. And since I don't see too much in the chat, but I see some people watching, do not forget, if you drop your player name in the chat, you're entering a draw to get some skins and to get great looking Halloween themed skin that you will be able to pick. So I'm not even gonna force you to go for this or that skin. You will be able to choose the one you want if you're one of our lucky winners. Okay, so let's go live. For this event, the first player we have will be Veringer, we have Juice, we have 007, Orange Reefer, Nappy, Panaquake, Sam, PSK, Heavy Style, Karun, Praetor, Gamer, Dead Ripping Hood, Victor, Admiral, Matthias, and that's basically as far as I'm gonna go because it's gonna take forever if I need to tell you the 94 players in this section. The event is live, so let's just go for it. There we go. Um, yeah, by the way, for those that are wondering how I'm gonna do for the players that are using kind of an Halloween scheme or not, because I don't want to be taking notes of that and all of them right away. What I'm gonna do is after the stream is over, I will look again at the battles without having to speak and to do all of that at the same time. And this way, I will know which ones I would qualify for it or not. Okay, so as I was saying, the next thing will be that we'll have a few optimizations coming after the artifacts rework, and those are the things you can expect by the end of the year. Early next year, and I think Matremar will especially be happy about that. One of the first things we'll get will be the very, very first steps into the Clan Wars system. When I say early next year, that doesn't mean necessarily January. That might take a bit of time, but basically, the first step for Clan Wars mechanism that we're looking at will be something like clan quests with clan rewards, clan leaderboards facing each other to see who succeeded and finished the most quests, which means as well more rewards within the clans and clans getting points based on the quests they finished and clans being ranked, etc., which is just the very early stages of future clan war mechanism. So that's going to be the first step. The other thing that will come also early next year that I wanted to touch on because that's something I mentioned a few times, um, we are working on getting you some more data uh, for your battles. And now I've seen what this is going to look like. So now I know a bit more what's going to be in there. Long story short, the idea is when a fight is over, you will have a button that if you click on, you can see some stats about the battle. The stats will show you all the units that were used from you and from your opponents, how much damage they dealt. We'll try to get the kill counts, like how many units they killed, how much damage they took, how much damage they deflected. So, like if they had a shield, etc., they might have deflected a lot of damage that they didn't take. And you will be able to see the power stones that were used on those units, which means now you will have a way to know what power stones were used by your opponents. I know that this one is going to be a bit controversial because some people want to keep their secrets, and some others might feel like it's giving up the information too easily. So this one is not set in stone. We'll discuss with you guys and see if you'd be interested. Um, Maybe what we'll be doing is kind of potentially displaying just part of the power stones, like not all of them or something like this. But that's the kind of stats you will be able to see after a battle. And the other thing that will come with these as well is a UI rework. This is something we're working on, for which there will be quite some talks with the players as well, because the game, when you're in the game mode, the fight mode, like right now, is amazing in terms of how it looks, how it feels, the screen, the split screen, the rolling, all of that looks very good and still holds up in 2024. The one bit that is not looking that great, especially with more and more features coming, is the main menu, main hub when you arrive into the game. And as we want to reach out to new markets, new people that never played the game, etc., it's important that this first apparition on the game looks very good. And that's the part we're going to be reworking. So, not the game itself, you will still have the exact same spinning experience. All of that will remain because that's the core of the game and it looks amazing. But what we want to rework is more of the menuing. And I've seen some of the steps that are worked on there. I'm quite sure you guys will enjoy that quite a fair bit, because it will make it a lot more user friendly to access the different game modes than what we currently have. Um, Long story short, it means anything related to battles will be in one spot. Everything related to quests, meaning either the individual one like the skirmish and the bounty hunter, etc., or the current events like the GRB, the clan red boss, etc., will all be bundled in specific um, parts, which will make it a lot easier to navigate through and will give a cleaner, slightly more modern aspect to the game. Don't worry, we're not talking, it's not going to look completely different or whatever. That's one thing we're working on that you will be seeing quite soon, um, because that will also make it easier to get new players to adopt the game. And that's obviously one of the key things if we want the game keep on growing and be more and more successful. So those are the things you can expect for up until um, end of the first quarter of the year or something like this. And then after that, we have some of the other features we already discussed, like the merchant and all of that. But so far, that's the direction we are looking at. So for the end of the year, artifacts rework and a few optimizations. Early next year, this UI rework that is needed for the user acquisition part. And sorry, I'm using the professional term. User acquisition is the professional term for getting new players in, pretty much. So yeah, I'm giving you some some secret words you can use now. And the early clan wars feature, which, as I said, will be more of a clan quests, fighting through clan quests early mechanism. So those are what the things we're working on. One thing we also started to work on, we already talked about it a bit, but it's this idea of seasonal units that we already discussed together, like having pool of units for season one, a bigger pool for season two, bigger pool for season three, and all of the units available for season four, which would basically follow the same logic as the Power Stones, make the eras a bit more specific. I remember, I think it was you, Matt Remar, that mentioned, hey, maybe we could do that with artifacts as well. This is also on the table, like having an era where one of the artifacts is only available starting the third season or something like this. That's possible. But yeah, we're working on this system. This one, I don't think it's going to come anytime soon, but it would be something for 2025 somewhere, because as we said, we will have a point where we just have too many units and it wouldn't work to go that way. Going back to things that are coming a bit faster and a bit sooner than expected, one thing that will come very fast and that you might not be aware of, well, you're not aware of because we didn't mention it yet, is everything related to Halloween. So some stuffs were supposed to start this week, and I decided to uh, wait for the current issues to be sorted. That's for the CM, the community side. Some things that come in the game will start in the coming days, though. So what are those? Well, starting in the coming days, you will get new wardrobes, you will get new exclusive offers, and these kind of things which you kind of expected. But starting next week, and that's something exclusive I'm sharing with you here, you will have something slightly similar to the Twisted Curse event, but where a few units that are really Halloween related will be buffed for just a week as kind of an Halloween tradition thing. Our idea is that until we have the system I was mentioning earlier, we would like to have for very specific moments, like, maybe Christmas and maybe Easter and maybe the Chinese New Year or those kind of big moments of the year, we would like to have slightly boosted units just for a little bit, just for a few days, nothing crazy. But that's something that will come, and that will be starting on Monday. On the community side, you will be getting a new challenge. This new challenge will be armies related, as we are talking. Basically, as we are showing up, the idea will be to show us the spookiest armies, and this time you can take your time. And I want to be clear, those spookiest armies will be judged both on, are they looking spooky, and are they also terrifying in terms of, can they actually do good on battle, right? It doesn't, it wouldn't make sense to just have an army of uh, um, chaos archer with a spooky skin, and just say, oh, but that's spooky. Yeah, that's spooky, but it wouldn't do so well in battle if you had only one type of units all over the place. So it will have to be spooky, but also to be interesting in terms of the layout. And that's going to be a contest that will start most likely tomorrow already. And another thing that will happen next week on the community side is that I prepared a little treasure hunt, so to say, on Discord for you guys to win some prizes. And again, prizes here will be skins, because I feel like this is one of the big thing for for the Halloween season. So yeah, those are some of the things we prepared so far. Um, I hope that you guys will enjoy that because yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Of course, the issues we faced in the last couple of days definitely kind of um, killed the vibe a little. So that's why I'm hoping that this Halloween stream, etc., will get us back into it. I know that this Halloween stream, if it happened without any issues, would have more people coming in, would have more people interested in. So that's one thing. The other thing, though, that I also um, noted is that even if I announced it pretty clearly, we have quite a few players that didn't realize at all that there were extra boosted rewards or whatever because they didn't read the announcement. Um, so that's also why I asked people to come and talk about it in the chat and share their player IDs. I see we have 5 people watching right now. Again, if you're watching the stream, come and share your player name in the chat so that you can win potentially a skin from the Halloween uh, themed skins. That's why I asked for that. Hey, Said, welcome. Um, yeah, the idea was to get people to read and check what's going on. I knew that we wouldn't get that many people to fully read it, but at least we are going to reward the people that do the effort of checking what's going on and go with this. So yeah, that's quite cool. I'm checking where we stand right now because I have the feeling that the battles are going super fast today. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have the feeling that it's going to be one of those streams that will end way sooner than I expected. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Uh, oh no, actually no. We have only we are at what like 20, 24 or 25 players in. Yeah, so we still have like 70 people. So that's okay. That's okay. It's not so fast. So yeah, those are the main things that are coming in at the moment. Um, I that's a spooky looking army, for example, at least to me, with the exception maybe of the how are they called in English? It's mandragore, I think, which to me they always look like just carrots planted in the sand. I remember saying that to the team when they first presented them, and I know it's not meant to look that way, but for me personally, that's the way they look. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything I missed on, but I don't think so. Guys, what about you? Is there anything you would like to ask to us today? Otherwise, I will just basically go on and tell you about uh, everything about Halloween for me, basically, what it means, what my favorite horror movies are, and what what I believe to be the best costumes for Halloween, etc. Maybe we can even talk about what are the best candies in the world if you want. I only know the ones I can access in Europe, plus the few ones I tried, like in Japan or in a few other places. But yeah, that's basically going to be the program, unless you guys have any questions that you want to ask about the game and what's to come soon. just a reminder again, if you still have issues with the power stones, make sure to update to the latest version. That's super important. Okay, so Halloween. So for somebody like me, oh sorry, yeah, um, we have Madrimar asking, yeah, league progress is better, and I'm curious if the wall is somewhat fixed. I think it's too early to say that it is fixed. There will be a couple of things that still need to happen for that. The main one is a bit of time because we are reducing. I think it's with the next season we will be again reducing the time for inactivity before you are out of the matchmaking. Um, but also, given that we just started preventing the manual drop below the thresholds that exist in the game, it is quite likely that you still have quite a few players that are lower than where they kind of should be because they basically don't know yet that there's this limitation. So I would expect that it will take at least the next 2 to 3 seasons before we really start to feel that there's a clear difference. And my feeling is that the wall in itself will really be sorted when we have the artifacts rework. Because at this point, it will mean that a player that has lower artifacts will have a slightly less, or, well, let's put it the other way around. Someone that has a slightly higher artifact level will not have such a big advantage as what they currently have. And I think that's the biggest problem when you enter the league at the moment is that most of the players, they enter the league, they have very low leveled artifacts. And the players they play against, for a lot of them, have already higher artifacts. The artifacts rework will make this gap between artifacts smaller, and that means it will also make the progression in the league system a bit more linear and more progressive. So my expectations is that for it to be fully fixed, we need to wait a bit. Is it going in the good direction? Did we take actions that should help? Definitely. I think it's already helping a bit, but to really see a big impact, it will still take a bit of time just to auto-regulate itself. That's the way I perceive it on that end. I don't have data yet to um, confirm that, but that's the way I can perceive it at the moment. Uh, by the way, yeah, for the leagues at the moment, there's no real changes planned, but the team is also monitoring very closely the issues with the two top leagues. Well, two plus the final title, because at the moment, as you know, there's not enough players that are in there. Again, we are waiting to see once those 2 3 seasons pass without as much manual drop, if it's actually helping populating those leagues. And then there might be a partial rewards rework based on that. The other part is that in general, the game will have rewards reworks like for the season pass, for the season path, and for the different events, etc., the seasonal achievements. All of that will be slightly reworked in the coming era uh, because we have new currencies that came in, right? We have the new currency for the journey levels, we have the new currency for the global red boss, and there will be a new currency as well with the artifacts rework. So we need to have those implemented in the rewards pool, and that will necessarily mean that some of the rewards will be reworked around that for sure. By the way, talking about journey levels, the ones that were due for this season are finally out. I'm not sure if they've been released already today or if they're about to be released, but it's today in any case, 5 new levels, and yeah, as you've guessed, the idea was to have them released with the second week of the season this time around, because we had the GRB to finish and monitor. But with the issues that came up, we simply waited a few more days, and that's why they were released today. They should have been released on Monday otherwise. But as soon as we saw that, we started to get reports about the power stones, etc. We felt like releasing them right now would simply not help. So that's why they've been there. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? Also, we have 7 people watching right now, but we have only 3 nicknames in the chat. So I assume that the 4 other people watching don't want to win a special Halloween skin. I mean, that's your choice, right? That's your right. You have the right to prefer to keep the regular skins only. I'm not going to judge you for that. Simply making sure people know that this is there and that's something they can get. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to talk about Halloween. So for someone like me, being born and raised in France, Halloween is not really in our culture. For most of my youth, Halloween was really this thing from the American movies, right? Then when you started to go to middle school, high school, either you would start to get your classes in English that would teach you about Halloween, but usually they would really teach you about the Irish tradition of Halloween. Hey, Deathly Hallows, welcome. Um, so yeah, we were told about traditions of Halloween, but really for us that was the thing in movies. Fun fact: we don't understand. We didn't back then understand Halloween that much, which means one of the Christmas movie that we would see every year in France on TV around Christmas time was E.T. But E.T. is said to happen during Halloween. That's the whole point of the movie, right? Well, not the whole point, but that's a big chunk of the movie. But for us, we had so few connections with Halloween that because it's a story about friendship and all that, it really became for like 10 years in a row. I remember for like 10 years in a row, there was a channel that would show ET either on the day before Christmas, on Christmas Day, or during this Christmas break between Christmas and New Year's Eve. There was always a moment when ET would show up, even though that's really not a Christmas movie. But that's to tell you how few we knew about Halloween as I was growing up. I think the first time I went kind of trick or treating, I was like 10 or something like this. And it never really took off in France. It's one of those things like if you go right now to the supermarket, you see, you know, big chunks of big packages of candies sold everywhere, the decorations and all of that. But I feel like outside of people that have very young children, up to 8 or 9, you will not see anyone focused on Halloween that much. But what became a tradition, though, for me and a few of my friends as well, is that every year for Halloween we would be watching horror movies, and that probably triggered as well for me my fascination for horror movies. I'm a huge fan of those films. I'm even a subscriber of a, a platform that is dedicated to horror movies so that I always have new ones to watch. I'm one of those guys that can go to the cinema alone to watch a horror movie, um, and I'm not waiting Halloween to do that. But Halloween is always the time of the year where you will get great ones that come up to the theaters. You will also have like the old classics that are shown again, those kind of things. So as I was saying earlier, I really love those movies, and the one experience I have with horror movies that really marked me was a few years ago now. What, 4 or 5 years ago? Um, I was in Berlin for work, and I was staying in a hotel. And one evening, my colleagues that worked in Berlin had, their lives going on, and I was staying at the hotel, and I was like, okay, let's see if there's any movie I can go and watch at the theater. And there was one not too far from the hotel that was really a classic Berlin movie theater, meaning that it looks nothing like a movie theater from the outside. Actually, it was built in an old adult film kind of video club, but it's now a normal um, a normal cinema with the special particularity that it's a lot of super small rooms. You can have like 10, 20 people max watching a movie, and they have a different movie shown every hour. So it's kind of a crazy concept that they have. But like you look at that program, and like every hour there's a different movie, and they won't be back until the next day. So it's not like you have 3 times a day this movie, or no, it's one time. And I checked what movies were there, and one of them was a horror movie that I already heard a lot of good things about. And it started, I think, at around 10 or 10:30 p.m. So I went there. We were like five in this small room because it was in Germany. In Germany, you can have beers at the cinema. So I was standing there, well, not standing, actually, sitting there in a couch because it's like it's an actual couch, not the usual cinema seats that you have. Here, it's really like they took something from a living room and put it in there. So I was sitting there with my beer, and I watched Hereditary from Ari Aster. And yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything about this movie. I still think to this day it's my favorite horror movie. It's really this kind of old school horror where they work on the ambience more than anything. It's not a movie full of jump scares or anything like this. It's very, very messed up in terms of what is being discussed in there. You have a lot of really artistic choices that make the movie stand out. But the part that really made the experience particular for me is that by the time the movie was over, it was probably 2 a.m. and I had to walk back like 2 kilometers in the middle of Berlin, and I freaked out. I was terrified to go home. Well, to go to the hotel. That was insane, and that really left a mark on me. I love this movie. I really love the cinema of Ari Aster in general. I did enjoy a lot Midsommar and even the last one, Beau is Afraid. But um, Hereditary really left a stronger mark on me because I felt like it's it had a more direct impact, where whereas a movie like Midsommar is a movie that is more interesting if you rewatch it because you realize a lot of small stuffs. You have a better understanding of what's going on in the movie, the theories, etc. It's also extremely shocking and extremely violent and extremely graphic, so that's not for everyone. But there's a high level of artistry in those movies. The benefit for me with a movie like Hereditary is that it was a lot more direct to enjoy right from the first watch. Hey, Panaquake, welcome to the stream. So yeah, that was one of my uh, big memories with horror movies in the past few years. If I go back way longer than that, um, there's been a lot of them. One that I would probably recommend that is also quite a weird movie, not necessarily horror, but definitely very graphic and very messed up in terms of what it's talking about, is the French movie Martyrs. If you've never seen Martyrs, I'm not going to spoil anything. Again, not for everyone. That's very, very graphic, very violent, but it's also a very strong concept, strong message. Um, and then you have all the classics, as I was saying. Um, I've always been quite, I wouldn't say fascinated because that's a bit weird for those kind of movies, but interested in movies like Cannibal Holocaust because that was the first real found footage. I can hear myself again. So yeah, that was the first real found footage type of movie that um, or the oldest example that I have in mind. The Blair Witch Project. I was quite young when it came out. When Blair Witch Project was released, I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. But I had older sisters, so we actually watched it. And this the whole story around it was very fascinating, more so than the movie itself. All the fake rumors and such. It was the very early days of internet as well, so you couldn't really know what was right or what was wrong. I remember on the French television, um, they showed the movie very late in the evening, obviously because it's not for everyone. And so before that, they had a fake documentary on everything around the movie, and that was completely fake as well. But that made the movie, when you were watching it, all the better. So yeah, that's a strong memory as well. Of course, I grew up as well with all the Stephen King's adaptations. I remember, watching Eat when I was probably way too young. That traumatized my entire generation. It's funny because when you rewatch this old version, it's actually not that great, but it was very visually something that would uh, mark you for good. So um, yeah, I think like I've always had an interest in horror movies because my parents allowed me to watch some of them a bit younger than I should have, but they were also very straightforward with the fact that this is cinema, this is not real. This is like when you're watching your cartoons, so you shouldn't be afraid of anything that is there. We would be talking about the movies to demystify anything. Usually if my parents already knew the movie, if there was any scene that they knew would be a bit scary for me, they would let me know in advance. I would hide my eyes, etc. So in a way, I probably saw some movies I shouldn't have watched this early. Uh, but I also realized that now when I check with some younger people that I'm, from my family, my nephews, and those kind of things, sometimes they're a lot more afraid about movies than I am and than I was when I was their age. Even for movies that are not horror movies, just anything a bit scary in an action movie or whatever, they can be quite heavily marked because they've never encountered any of that. Like they're protected from this kind of images for like until they're, I don't know. I think my nephew probably watched his first horror movie this year at like 13 or something like this, and that's a good thing in general. But that also means he's suddenly confronted to a lot of things all of a sudden. So that's something we did benefit from, I would say. And in my case, yeah, I developed a strong passion for those movies. I'm gonna stop there because I could talk about it for hours and hours, but that's something I do associate with um, with Halloween, obviously. Now, as we were talking about costumes, because we were talking about Halloween, trying to think. I don't think I've been wearing that much crazy costumes as an adult or young adult because, again, we don't really celebrate Halloween. But I did wear some nice ones outside of Halloween. Um, we we have a tradition to do some you know costume parties with some of my friends from time to time, so that's a good opportunity for that. And everyone kind of always has this idea of, okay, we're not gonna just rent a costume or something that is already made, we're gonna do it by ourselves. It's gonna be looking a bit shitty, but that's the point, right? To make it your own, make it by yourself. It won't look that great, but you will surprise people. I think one that I liked the most was a year where we did a party where the theme was heroes from your childhood, and so I ended up dressing up as one of the Dragon Ball character. So Kame Sennin, for those that um, would know the anime. And so I back then I still had more hair, so I had to wear a fake shaved head. I had to find a way with cupboards and anything I could to make a fake um, tortoise shell. And yeah, that was a very very funny one. There's been a few like this, but I think the costumes in general, um, what really stands out for me are more the funny costumes than the really accurate ones, etc. I know with the crazy explosion of cosplaying, it kind of became a thing as well to kind of cosplay for Halloween. So make super realistic, super uh, advanced costumes for Halloween, and I think that's that takes a lot of skills, and people that are doing that, it's amazing, but it's not really my thing. I personally like when a costume is a bit goofy, a bit stupid. Mostly, I like when people come up with something completely, um, uh, completely crazy. It reminds me of this meme that was going on at one point where you had a company that organized an ugly sweater competition, and one guy just came with a sweater that had a mirror on himself, on his chest, just to say, like, yeah, basically, no matter your sweater, I'm just mimicking it, and that will be the ugliest. I don't know. That's stupid, but that's the kind of idea that I wish I had. So that's probably why I enjoy those kind of things. And then what did I say for Halloween? Yeah, candies. I have a bit too much of a sweet tooth. I like candies and such, probably too much for my good health. But in Europe, we probably don't have the same type of candies for a lot of them than you guys have elsewhere. I know, especially that in the US, you have things that are very different from us. I think the one that really still shocks me the most in the US is how um, supposedly for youth protection, but clearly for national protectionism, the Kinderüberraschung from uh, from the Kinder company are banned from the US. This one is always cracking me up because it's like it's just a chocolate egg. It's the most inoffensive thing in the world. But because there's a toy inside and you could swallow the toy, it's been completely banned. And I don't know, I find it hilarious when I see videos like on TikTok or whatever of uh, people from importing them to Canada and then from Canada to the US. And then they do those super edgy reaction videos of trying Kinderüberraschung, Kindersurprise in French, for the first time. It's really, really it's kind of funny because it's like, hey, you're doing something that is illegal, but can you imagine that someone would track you down to say, hey, I know that you you imported a Kinder and you ate that chocolate egg, we need to fine you. That would be insane. So I don't know, those ones that always makes me laugh. I know that you have quite a variety um, of sweets that we don't have over here in Europe, especially like all the chocolate bars, stuff like that. We have some of the ones you have, but I know you have a lot more than what we have, especially in France. It's not that big of a market. That reminds me, the first day I arrived in Ireland, um, back during my studies, I spent almost a year in Ireland, and um, we arrived at the airport, and I saw a vending machine, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a chocolate bar or something." And I saw a chocolate bar that had a very pretty much kind of sexist name, which was "Not for Girl," and I was like, "What the hell is that?" So I bought one, and out of all the things I could have imagined being associated with a name like that, it ended up being a chocolate bar with raisins in it. It it was absolutely awful because I don't like uh, raisins in sweets or anything like that. Uh, the name was absolutely awful, and I had no idea why they did it that way. But that's one I remember quite well. This was kind of insane. This crazy idea that the guys in Ireland had. Um, on the other end, they had all the Cadbury stuffs, which was quite amazing. So I'm not going to complain too much about the sweets that they had. I'm trying to think about what would be the traditional type of sweets kids are getting in France for Halloween. Usually, um, you know, the the families will buy any sweets that is wrapped, obviously, because you're not going to give something all dirty and such. And the ones that are the most famous are called either regala or crema, which are just basically small fruits, fruity um, candies, very very basic. They're a bit gummy and very soft. They have a very chemical flavor. They're not that great, but it's kind of the candy from childhood for a lot of people. So I guess that's why they go for that a lot. Um, but I remember when the few times I went trick or treating when I was a kid, most of the elders, especially, they had no idea about what Halloween was, not at all. So they didn't know what they should give us. So we ended up with people just giving us, cookies and whatever biscuits they had. We had people giving us, we had one old guy, he gave us, um, chocolate for if you want to have a hot chocolate, like, just the powder in individual packets, like you would buy an instant coffee kind of thing. It was the instant chocolate kind of thing. He was giving up that because he had nothing else sweet in his house. We even had a few people just giving up money straight ahead because they had nothing related to this. I would say now it's a bit different. In my case, when kids are ringing to our doorbell, um, I'm not afraid to admit that we're trying not to open the door, mostly because I have two dogs, and whenever you ring the bell, the dogs go a bit insane. And I don't want the kids to be afraid of the dogs, but also the way our house is. If I want to open the door, there's a risk that the dogs will just sneak out. So it's always a bit tricky. So we do give candies to kids if they do ring out, but we're doing our best to give them the feeling we're not there and they shouldn't ring at our door. Not because we don't want to give candies, but mostly because it's really hard to quiet down the dogs after that. They get quite excited by the ringing. and by hearing kids all over the place, and that's always a bit of a stressful situation for them. That being said, we don't have that many kids that do this in France, the trick or treats. We always have this problem that um, the day after Halloween in France is actually a bank holiday, but not Halloween. So a lot of kids, they will not do the trick or treating on Halloween. They usually do it a few days before. They will do it on the Saturday or the Wednesday afternoon because they don't have school. That comes before Halloween. And the problem is because of that, you never really quite know when they're going to show up. Like this year, I would expect that it will be on the 30th because that's the Wednesday. But I'm sure we might get already some kids coming in this weekend because their parents won't be around to um, to go out with them on the Wednesday afternoon because they work, etc. So they might actually organize it so that it happens on the Saturday or the Sunday. So it's always a bit complicated. Sometimes when Halloween ends up being on a Saturday or on a Sunday, then obviously everyone will go trick or treating, all the kids at the same time. But really often that's not the case. So yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can tell you about me and Halloween in France or my experience with that in general. I would be quite interested, to be honest, in seeing at least once the real Halloween, like the real deal. Uh, you know, going to a small town in the US or in we did Halloween in Ireland, but that was a bit particular because we went to Dublin, and in Dublin it was just everyone go outside and party. We didn't see kids much; it was mostly grown-ups starting early in the late afternoon as they do when they start to party. It's always quite early, so I don't have the memory of the excitement of all the kids and such going trick or treating when we were in Ireland. I would like to see that maybe more in the US. That could be something. That might be a good reason, to go to the US around this time of the year. Anyway, it's a good time of the year because the NHL season started again, which is definitely the one thing I look forward to the most at this time of the year. Even though my favorite team from NHL already started on a very poor note, and it's going to be a long season. But yeah, that would be quite interesting. Okay, guys, is there anything else that you would like to ask? Any other question? Any other player nickname coming in? Because remember that you can win some skins if you participate. So far, it's a pool of 4 players, 5 players. So, there's probably going to be one winner out of you guys. Um, it's, if you still want to, you still have, I would say, hey, you don't have that much time. You have about 7 or 8 fights, and then we'll be done. I think that's it, right? Yeah, next we have Constantine, we'll have the Backdoor, we'll have Swarm, the Rootkit, Penny, Jensen, Mador, and Libe with 2L at the beginning. And or maybe it's Illiberry with an I at the beginning. I'm not sure. So we just have a few accounts to go, and then everything will be over. I think out of all the time. Oh, sorry. Yes, there's a question from Panoquake. Did you talk or test about adding a movement speed multiplier when overtime kicks in? Um, yes and no. The problem is we looked at adding a movement speed, and it will be a bit tricky, but it could happen. What I can say though is that the team is looking into having also a movement speed boost as one of the seasonal power boosts that you can unlock. So right now there's only 3 that are rotating. On the longer run, the movement speed or attack speed could be 2 that they're looking at. But yeah, the main problem at the moment is that, from what I understood of the development talks about it, is that the value are not scaling up the same way for every unit. So if we apply just a multiplier, it might make some of those changes absolutely insane, while for some other units it would barely have an impact. So that's one bit we have to look into, especially like if you use any movement speed increasing power stones, it could quickly become a huge mess. And the main problem with this is that the game engine needs to be able to follow up, right? If it goes too fast for the system to even display what's going on, that would get into a tricky situation. But the team is looking into it, so that could come. That could be something coming in. Any other question that you guys might have? Otherwise, that will quickly be it for today because I think there's like 3 fights. Yeah, 3 fights to go after Benny. Problem and a quick. Also, just as a reminder, we have quite a few things coming in for Halloween. There will be the boosted units, Halloween themed, next week. This week, starting this weekend, you'll get some new exclusive offers and wardrobes, etc. So that will be quite interesting for you guys to see. And we'll have a contest starting most likely tomorrow already on Discord. And yeah, there will be quite a few things coming in the game as well. So yeah, that's the main thing we are looking at the moment. Um, oh, thank you, Matrima. Would it also apply if you add it within the last second only? Um, yes, but as far as I'm aware, it's not something we can. Or I mean, we could do that, but it would require more development because the way the overtime works right now is either you put something that is like a formula that is linear, so it goes, okay, we increase speed by 200%, or it has to be an exponential one. So we say, hey, we start at 100%, so that's just the regular speed, and by the time the thing ends, it goes to 200%. But the problem is if we do that, um, unless we make a super flat formula, you might not really feel it that much. And again, I'm not even sure that we can make a super flat formula. So that would be something we need to check. And we are done with the fight. So I'm gonna stop it there for the fights. So yeah, that would be something that needs to be checked. But it could happen. It could be done. It's just that um, if there's some more development needed, the team has a lot to develop for the game right now, so it does not have the highest priority compared to some other elements, but it could still come. Like there's nothing preventing these from being done at a later point. It's just that it probably does not have the highest priority at the moment. Okay, I'm gonna grant everyone the rewards. As a reminder, you should see that you have more gems now because this was a boosted event. And yeah, on our side, that's pretty much for this time. Thank you all for joining us. We'll have our next stream in 2 weeks. The results for the skins related elements, I will try to be able to rewatch the stream and look at that, etc. by tomorrow. Most likely it will be on Monday, but I will do my best to do that tomorrow. And yeah, that's basically it for now. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you again for joining this stream, and we'll talk to each other in roughly 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.